that I was 17, and subsequent massive amounts of work. Apparently the poll was 14. So I think that by tomorrow, which is on election day, I should be at 0.
Not quite 0, but close. They get the news at her campaign office.
And we can tell you on the coast that Brian Mulrooney has won the election, and we're running out of adjectives to describe just how big this win is. The famine has ended with a bang.
And what liberals seemed to realize with a bang this night was this. There would be no scapegoat. It just wasn't their turn anymore.
Capitola, the other big liberal star in British Columbia, went down to defeat handily at the hands of Chuck Cook tonight.
In British Columbia this election night, in what was to be the crucible of the Liberals' Western rebirth, disbelief was followed oddly by relief, because the election disaster brought the end of a series of bitter and nasty rivalries which had plagued the party all during the campaign, which the president had no power to control, and which had become a dangerous collection of resentments. There were no tears. The rejection could be shared by everyone in the party. As John Turner, victorious in his own riding, came to talk to the nation, his supporters seemed genuinely delighted. Government was lost, yes, but so were the opponents in their own party.
And tomorrow, I begin my task of rebuilding the Liberal Party. I recall what Winston Churchill said in the dark days of 1941. Our defeats are but the stepping stone to victory. And I shall set about the task of rebuilding our party from one coast to the other.
In retrospect, what the Liberals tried to do in Western Canada was patently ludicrous. Probably had the tide gone the other way. Still, the mood among influential Liberals around here is strangely steady, even euphoric among some of them. For many years, they had been left out of the center of the Liberal Party, and they see their election disaster not as a repudiation of John Turner or of what they stand for, but as a final, violent, and for them, welcome death of Trudeauism. They see the future, therefore, as a clean slate, and one in which they can have considerable influence.
Well, welcome to the 1980s.
In February 1980, very few Liberals were complaining about Pierre Trudeau's resumption of power. Still, there's no doubt that the reincarnation cost the Liberals their chance to renew and left them depending again on one personality. And that, in the end, spawned a bitter feud for the spoils of power. Liberal Senator Ray Perot with an argument now popular among Liberals.
I think there was some competition in that area, yes, and a reluctance of people established in power to give up that power, people of influence who failed to recognize that you must step aside and give younger people, innovative people, a chance. I must say now, because it's history, that in 1979 I was one of those Liberals who was very much against the idea of bringing down the Clark government. I said to go for short-term gain in 79 and 80, during that tempestuous period, I said could well set back the entire Liberal Party for many, many years. And I remember at one meeting I was booed for saying it.
Perot was not alone in his unease about the clique in control of the Liberal Party. 2 years later, the rank and file met at convention, and the elite had a revolt on its hands.
What this resolution is all about is challenging this party to be open and democratic, to stand up and say in public what it knows and it can't.
The party wanted reform and tried to clip the wings.
In favor of Resolution 40, please raise your card.
This was as feisty as Liberals had been in 15 years. Resolution 40 called ultimately for a clean-out of Pierre Trudeau's most trusted advisors. Iona Campanola was elected president on the promise of reform, but everybody knew that Senator Keith Davey was still running things and would continue to. They suspected that Jim Coots was up to no good, and many felt that Principal Secretary Tom Axworthy helped shut the party out of government. Defeated MP John Reid, packing up 21 years in Parliament, has long been on the outs with the Trudeau group, and that is where he turns to explain what happened last month.
No, I think it was part of a decline that affects any organization that is unable to make the necessary changes when the disease is first seen. In other words, the rot that sets into any organization has to be taken out from. We really did not do and go through that process of renewal. There was an opportunity, I think, in 79-80, but it was arrested.
I said that we were moving legions that did not exist. We had gone to a bunker mentality. We were pushing buttons that weren't connected anymore, and that really was...
The convention was supposed to change all that. Instead, it made it worse. When John Turner was elected leader, his party was by no means reformed. Rather, the party elite turned in on itself and squabbled over power.
And when tomorrow is over, we will emerge, as we always have, a united party, a party renewed.
But the fact is, the new bunch, manager Bill Lee, advisor John Swift, and others began fighting almost immediately, with others and among themselves. And none of the battles was more painful, nor in the end more damaging, than the family feud in Quebec. Jean Chrétien, hurt and disappointed, knew that his defeat was caused in large part by the man who'd been his best friend. André Ouellette organized Quebec for John Turner, stole away the support which might otherwise have made Chrétien prime minister. And though after the convention Turner tried to accommodate Chrétien, the rift was never healed. And even now Ouellette speaks darkly of the force still loyal to his former friend.
Well, let's be very blunt about it. There is the Chrétien faction who are bitter about their defeat and who holds it against a number of Quebecers, including myself, who support John Turner. But the future of Mr. Chrétien depends largely on his attitude and on his willingness to fully cooperate with his current leader.
Are you satisfied that he seems to be prepared to do that now, or does he seem to be?
I hope so, but it's for him to answer.
Cooperate? At John Turner's request, campaigned tirelessly in the election, traveled coast to coast, his own popularity rising as the parties collapsed. Rather, it was Marc Lalonde Quebecers seemed to want to punish. Lalonde was one of those who kept Chrétien out of the leadership. Lalonde was running the Quebec campaign with André Ouellette, and their machine supposedly fell apart. Even in Quebec, the elite had become a liability. Defeated MP Hal Herbert was surprised at the lack of organization.
It was not up to par. There was no doubt about that. That applied both at the constituency level and at the Montreal, the organizational level for the province as a whole.
More surprising, says Herbert, the bitterness is suddenly gone. The defeat so massive that no individual or organization could be blamed.
There was no greater comeuppance for little acrimony. Rather, the reluctant acceptance that the Liberal free ride in Quebec is now over, and that this place will never be a fiefdom again.
Are we on, or?
Yeah, we're on.
In Vancouver, former Minister Ron Basford could laugh in defeat, because here, too, some unpleasant Liberal baggage was unloaded along the way.
You know, either they all get together and rebuild the party, or they won't have anything to fight about. And that's a rather strong motivation in most parties anyway, and certainly the Liberal Party. I've never, over the last 2 months, paid that much attention to all of those groups fighting it out in the East. To me, they're mostly inconsequential.
Out here, people like Basford say it was Pierre Trudeau and his friends who were rejected, finally, by the country, and that eventually John Turner's Vancouver toehold will revive a long-dormant Western liberalism.
I think the vast majority of Westerners are liberals. I mean, there is liberals with a small L.
In Winnipeg, former Trudeau Minister Otto Lang is already dreaming of revival. Does he think anyone will want to join a party once hated, now humiliated?
Yes, I do. Funnily enough, I think it probably is easier. There was in this campaign no lack of good liberal workers and enthusiasts, even in the difficulties of the time and the tide. And to some extent, the leadership campaign and Mr. Turner had brought some more of them out. So there are a lot of vigorous people around ready to work. Now the problem of blaming everything on the Liberal government in Ottawa, and therefore on Liberals generally, is off the back of provincial Liberals.
Meanwhile, back in Ottawa, President Campanola is telling him, slow.
You know, since I became president of this party in November of '82, there has not been a quiet moment. It's been a great churning cauldron of activity. And now we have a moment not to be active, to really have time to think. That's probably the best thing for the party.
The same thing that happened between '58.
These people are among the first to hear her message.
On the national news, the same position that Paul Martin was in?
This is the party's youth wing meeting in the wake of the election disaster. Those MPs who survived the debacle are happy to talk to them, because a party out of power has no way to keep the youth down. This is a business meeting, but the business at hand is very much affected by the new reality.
Opportunity to say a few words to the executive of the Young Liberals.
It is understood as the meeting begins that Mrs. Campanola's hold on the presidency is uncertain. Among active liberals, there are rumblings of discontent about her style and organization. The president herself is aware of this. In fact, believes that the man sitting beside her at this meeting, former National Director Gordon Ashworth, is agitating against her.
You may find yourself pushed and demanded to come to arms, to begin to fight a battle. Keep in mind, if you will, there is no battle to fight at this particular time.
Next morning, the youth wing encounters a dilemma which a lot of liberals are feeling these days.
Then we have this poster.
The display is a new recruitment poster which expresses pride in the Liberal Party. There's an argument about that.
What you'll be putting across in your recruitment strategies, like essentially what I hear from you people is that you're embarrassed about our product. The Liberal Party and the Young Liberals of Canada is our product, and you people are embarrassed about it. Bother you for a couple of years or what?
I will let order.
It's not the product really that we're ashamed of. It's the way we're marketing the product. Is that what we don't like? We just take the opinion that the way that we're marketing this product, and the slogan "Take a look at us now," is not the way we feel it should be done.
That's what I'm saying. You're embarrassed about our product. And that is exactly the point. It was the old Liberal Party that lost on September 4th, and starting September 5th, we were building a new party, and we're building a new coalition of voters and first-time voters and young people across this country. I think this is a positive time for young people to get involved in the Liberal Party. I really do believe it when I say that there's never been a time when you could have more impact. And if September 4th and September 5th, we should have been on with building the new one, and that's the thrust of the message.
There are, however, a few wrinkles to work out. Just a few. At the Liberal Party's national headquarters in Ottawa, they're trying to do something about the mess. Not just from the election, but from years of neglect. Very recently, the Liberals discovered that political parties run on tech these days. Only now are they starting to build the kind of machine which has been pumping away at Conservative headquarters for a decade. During those years, the party failed to raise enough money, fell into debt, lost influence with its elected representatives, was bossed around by the party elite, and by the end was kept, I'll tell you, it may die yet.
I think a party that defines itself as a liberal party is always on the edge of disappearance, because it stands for being opposed to polarization. It stands for common sense and reason. It stands, hopefully, for the protection of individual and individual rights. The consequence is that any liberal party always lives on the knife edge. And so it could well be that if the voters reject that kind of an option, as they have provincially, then indeed there may not be any room for a liberal party.
Remnants of the party are gathering this week to plan a life in opposition. One thing they've made clear is that no one will take a run at John Turner. Not yet, anyway. For now, their sights will be set on the government.
You know, we'll watch them. We'll have a lot of fun. We'll let the honeymoon pass, and very quickly the dishes will be flying in the Tory kitchen.
Party people say John Turner has about a year to prove himself. There are doubters, but judgment is withheld.
Your pre-election statements that you will be staying around to lead the party in the next election?
You got it. What's the first thing you have to do to start rebuilding, sir? The first thing? My attitude is positive. That's the first thing.
Thank you very much.
There is finally one central ingredient John Turner cannot call upon to maintain his hold on the party, and that is power. Liberal leaders, indeed the Liberal Party, have long used the perks of power as the hammer and nails of their successful coalitions. Now that